Hey guys, today I'll show you a zombie horror thriller TV series named Z Nation Season 5. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Previously on last season, Roberta was trapped inside a drone, unable to halt the sinister Black Rainbow Project, which dispersed an unknown agent worldwide. Eventually, the drone crashed, and upon impact with the ground, Roberta slowly regained consciousness from her comatose state. After extricating herself from the wreckage, she discovered severe injuries to her abdomen. Although she had inhaled a healing gas, she lost her rapid healing ability. Persistently pushing forward, she finally found a farm where she could rest. Exhausted and depleted, she collapsed, but was fortuitously found by a farmer who took her in and provided medical care. As she woke up in the farmhouse, she cautiously explored her surroundings. The kind farmer was preparing a meal in the kitchen, and upon seeing her awake, pointed out where the door was. He mentioned she had been unconscious for 2 weeks and invited her to stay for dinner to aid her recovery. She later inquired about safe zones, but the farmer explained that no broadcasts had been sent out since the Black Rainbow had been dispersed. Meanwhile, a sexy survivor girl was being chased by the zombies, and Doc, who was disguised as a zombie for fun. Cornered and contemplating suicide, she realized Doc's disguise just in time as he swung a hammer to kill the pursuing zombies to save her sexy life. They quickly fled toward a rendezvous point. However, his zombie disguise was so convincing that he was nearly shot by the coming sniper 10K. It turns out Roberta had completed her mission and had successfully replaced the drone's biochemical weapons, ensuring everyone's survival. Just then, zombies appeared from behind, prompting everyone to open fire. Murphy and his group continued to encounter more survivors, leading them towards the safe zone. The next morning, the farmer was tilling the fields, and Roberta joined him in the work. As they noticed a zombie approaching the farm, the farmer drew his handgun. Surprisingly, the zombie halted in fear, but still advanced to attack. Roberta quickly engaged them, and the farmer shot the zombie dead. Later that night, the two enjoyed a meal together in the dining room, gradually developing a fishy feeling for each other. The next day, Doc and his group arrived at a crossroads. Murphy decided to part ways with the group to search for the whereabouts of Roberta. Doc led the others toward the safe zone for refuge. Sometime later, the soldier girl discovered that a granny had gone missing. They eventually found her in the distance, shockingly gnawing on the brains of a corpse, leaving everyone stunned and hastily intervening to stop her. Back with Roberta, the farmer was worried after realizing that the amount of cultivated land was insufficient. They decided to travel to a distant farm to retrieve a tractor, necessary to expand their fields before the change of seasons. They quickly set off. Upon reaching the distant farm, they also found the tractor. The two immediately sprang into action. Roberta, with her extensive experience, successfully repaired the old tractor. However, the farmer was attacked by zombies. Roberta quickly drew her pistol, but as more zombies appeared and overpowered her from behind, the farmer managed to break free and eliminate all the zombies. Gunshots attracted an even larger horde of zombies. After a fierce struggle, they hurriedly climbed onto the tractor and ultimately managed to escape, returning to the farmer's farm. On the road, Murphy found a zombie victim and picked up the shattered pieces of its brain. By consuming the brain, he viewed the zombie's past memories and learned the direction of Roberta's accident. After a while, Murphy found the crashed drone, but it was empty. He decided to wait for Roberta's return. After a long wait, only a zombie appeared. Murphy attempted to communicate, but the zombie was already too decayed, even losing its jaw. Murphy had no choice but to consume the zombie's brain, which successfully led him to Roberta's location. He then continued on his journey. On Doc's side, as they approached the safe zone, they saw a sign for it, but found only a small outpost. Doc approached 2 men staying at the outpost, who informed him that the safe zone was still in the voting phase and not yet fully established. Suddenly, the granny uncontrollably attacked a survivor. Everyone rushed to intervene. Just then, another survivor lost control. As a man was about to shoot, the outpost leader, George, intervened. She pulled cookies from her pocket, fed them to the uncontrollable granny, who then regained her consciousness and ceased her attack. George explained that those who lose control had actually died since the Black Rainbow Project, turning into a new type of zombie that retains human consciousness. Consuming brain cookies in time can counteract their cannibalistic urges. Back with Roberta, while helping to chop wood on the farm, curiosity got the better of her, and she ventured into a locked warehouse nearby. Inside, she found only a car. Just as she was about to open the car door, she discovered a zombie girl locked inside. The farmer also arrived at the warehouse, and Roberta quickly rushed outside, frightened. The farmer revealed that the zombie inside was his daughter and expressed his hope that one day a cure would be found to turn her back into a human. Eventually, persuaded by Roberta, the farmer gave up hope. He entered the warehouse with a pistol to end his zombified daughter's suffering. Meanwhile, George was distributing brain cookies to all the zombie-like humans. When 10K tried to sneak a cookie, she stopped him, warning that it would be dangerous for humans to eat the cookies. Doc asked about the ingredients of the cookies, but she said that no one knew exactly what they contained, only that they helped suppress cannibalistic urges. She then introduced everyone to Lieutenant Dante, who possessed formidable combat skills and was her partner. George informed everyone that the safe zone was still in the legislative phase, hoping to elect new leaders and policies by vote. She decided to lead everyone to the safe zone to take refuge and participate in the voting. After some time, everyone finally arrived at the safe zone. They went to a checkpoint first, where a doctor was responsible for verifying everyone's identity. When it was 10K's turn, the doctor couldn't detect a pulse and noticed bite marks on him. The soldier girl quickly explained that the marks were from previous encounters, leaving the doctor stunned. After thoroughly examining 10K, the doctor eventually detected a faint heartbeat and registered 10K as human. Those identified as zombie-like were taken to a quarantine area to be fed cookies. Elsewhere, Doc was surprised to see 10K's missing lover, Red, also in the safe zone, but the soldier girl was not pleased, worried that 10K might seek to reconcile with his lover. Then a man approached and embraced Red, who was holding a baby. Back at the farm, the farmer was moving some timber when he heard a rustle behind him. Swiftly, he grabbed his gun and turned around, only to find Murphy approaching. The two didn't know each other. Murphy explained that he was looking for a friend and described Roberta's appearance. The farmer then revealed that Roberta was inside and, using his gun, he took Murphy to a nearby warehouse. It turns out, the farmer selfishly did not want Roberta to be taken away. After leading Murphy into the warehouse, he knocked him out from behind. Sometime later, Roberta had been waiting inside the house for quite some time. She came out to check on things and noticed that the farmer wasn't organizing the timber as he had said. She went to the warehouse to ask him what had happened, but he claimed he was just organizing some tools. Just then, she heard a strange noise, and suspecting something was off, she opened the car to check and found Murphy bound and gagged. Outraged, she began to question the farmer's action of kidnapping. The farmer quickly explained that he just didn't want Roberta to be taken away by someone else, and hoped to spend his life with her without disturbances. However, Roberta did not accept this, and in her anger, attacked the farmer. The farmer suggested they could go back inside for a hormone yoga session and continue their peaceful life, but she disagreed. She picked up a tool and knocked the farmer out, then rescued Murphy from the car, leaving the farmer locked inside. Feeling sad but resolved, Roberta decided to leave with Murphy. They drove away in a farming vehicle towards the safe zone as zombies from the nearby farm pursued them, discovering the farmer in the car. At the safe zone, everyone was assigned jobs upon arrival. George announced that once the voting was completed, people could choose their jobs freely. Meanwhile, a dispute arose in the quarantine area. George rushed to intervene, revealing that many humans in the safe zone were not friendly towards the zombie-like. Dante informed George that the future policy should aim for peaceful coexistence and equal treatment for the zombie-like. After a while, the safe zone welcomed many more survivors. Doc was delighted to find Roberta there, and everyone happily gathered together. As they were about to enter for inspection, Murphy was stopped by a soldier who suspected that his red appearance did not qualify him as human, leading to a dispute. George came to investigate and discovered that she and Roberta knew each other. It turned out that during the initial outbreak, George was nearly killed by a zombie, but was saved by Roberta, allowing her to survive until now. George then allowed Roberta and Murphy to bypass all checks. They went inside to talk, and Roberta was introduced to the executive officer of the safe zone. While welcoming Roberta, she noticed a barcode on the executive officer's hand. He explained that he had once joined the alien zone but disagreed with their methods and left to establish the safe zone. The military officer had become a scientist in the safe zone and decided to extract Murphy's blood to continue developing a cure. Meanwhile, the NSA communicator, who had already been living in the safe zone, was happily documenting life there. He was thrilled to meet Doc and welcomed everyone to the safe zone, hugging the soldier girl and asking her to rest inside before asking for another hug. After a while, the communicator was stopped by a fan who expressed that during the disaster, they relied solely on his broadcasts to get through their hard days. The fan then ordered a grotesque cocktail called Finger Drink, hoping the communicator would drink it. Seeing this, Doc signaled 10K to step in and help. While 10K was away, the soldier girl thought it was Doc's duty to tell 10K about Red finding new love to prevent 10K from never learning the truth. Just then, 10K stepped forward and successfully rescued the communicator from the fan. Returning to his seat, 10K found himself being continuously stared at by two people. Doc quickly informed him that Red was also in the safe zone and had had a child with another man, which left 10K stunned and hormone-frustrated. He picked up the finger drink from the table, drank it, and chewed the fingers inside, overwhelmed with sadness. Meanwhile, a dispute erupted nearby between humans and zombies. A drunk man, believing that zombies would one day attack humans, pulled out a handgun and shot a zombie. George immediately intervened to stop him, while Roberta also drew her gun in caution. The shot zombie didn't die, but criticized the man for recklessly firing and ruining his commemorative outfit, leaving the group astonished as they were still unaccustomed to the presence of zombies. Eventually, Roberta calmed the drunk man down. After some time, the group began voting in the safe zone, with the communicator recording the democratic process. Meanwhile, 10K and the soldier girl were managing security outside and spotted Red in the distance, which deeply saddened 10K. The soldier girl suggested he should talk to her. Just as he was about to approach, he saw the man holding a baby and immediately withdrew, afraid to confront Red. However, after some time, Red approached and hugged 10K, attempting to kiss him using her juicy tongue, but he pulled her tongue away and inquired about the baby. He then learned that Red was merely looking after a friend's baby, which relieved him. Back at the election, all votes had been cast, and it was time for Roberta to announce the results. Just as she was about to take the stage, a violent explosion occurred, killing many and turning them into zombies. Fortunately, Roberta and her group avoided the blast and quickly moved to help the injured. Suddenly, a large group of zombies invaded, forcing everyone to fight back. After resolving the crisis, more zombies appeared, and Roberta had to attack again, killing the last wave of zombies and feeding cookies to the newly transformed ones to curb their desire to attack humans. 10K continued shooting zombies from outside, while Roberta suspected that someone had intentionally planted the bomb to cause chaos. The executive then arrived, revealing they had received reliable information that the explosion was a zombie-executed plan. Elsewhere, Murphy in the lab felt uneasy, believing the explosion would incite conflict, and decided to leave the safe zone quickly. Later, the executive discovered the perimeter wall was damaged and approached George to inquire about the situation, suspecting that Dante was behind the explosion and demanding that he be brought in for questioning. The communicator quickly reviewed the footage he had recorded to identify the perpetrator. The executive then demanded the communicator hand over the camera for personal investigation and took his recording equipment. After a while, soldiers arrived at the lab with orders from the executive to isolate all zombies. The military officer was furious and demanded the soldiers leave the lab, but as they were all armed, there was nothing she could do but watch as the zombies were arrested. As Murphy moved towards the exit, he was stopped by soldiers who suspected he might also be a zombie and asked to check his pulse. Agreeing, Murphy immediately knocked the soldier unconscious and fled the scene. Using the safe zone's broadcast system, the executive announced that Dante was a wanted criminal and that all zombies should be isolated, infuriating George. She and Roberta left the scene, and just as they were walking outside, a car driven by Dante suddenly approached, with Murphy also standing at the back. The car sped towards the gate, breaking through and escaping the scene while also attracting the attention of nearby zombies, prompting everyone to open fire. Murphy had hitched a ride to a distant place. He jumped out of the vehicle and decided to seek a safe haven. Sometime later, the soldier girl noticed that something was amiss. The quarantined zombies hadn't been fed. The scarcity of food caused the zombies to lose control, driven by a relentless hunger for human brains. Roberta decided to escape the safe zone through a fence. Just then, soldiers arrived to inspect, and the soldier girl pretended to take Roberta and her group hostage. As the soldiers approached, 10K launched a surprise attack from behind, allowing Roberta and her group to escape through the wire fence and investigate further clues. Meanwhile, Murphy encountered many bandits armed with an array of weapons patrolling the area. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed a mysterious man tracking him. After a while, Doc and a radio operator disguised as zombies successfully diverted the bandits' attention. As the bandits prepared to attack, Roberta ambushed them, took them hostage at gunpoint, stripped them naked, and stole all their belongings before making an escape in the bandits' car. Murphy continued to evade the mysterious man's pursuit and was about to continue his escape when he fell down a hillside and was discovered by the mysterious man, causing Murphy great anxiety. He then learned that the man was an agent of his half-zombie kingdom, which brought him immense relief. The man revealed that he had established a strong force nearby and was waiting for Murphy to return and take charge of a newly established base. The military officer discovered that all the biscuits had been stolen, leaving only a small reserve stock. She quickly took the remaining biscuits to the quarantine zone. Meanwhile, Roberta found Dante's car abandoned on the road. Upon investigating, they found the car empty and further ahead, discovered tortured and charred zombies, with one survivor who informed them that the executive had sent soldiers to continuously hunt zombies outside. The military officer and the soldier girl reached the zombie quarantine zone and secretly gave the biscuits to the zombies. When discovered by a soldier, they accidentally knocked down the quarantine zone's iron fence, leading to the soldier's death by the zombies. As another soldier was about to shoot, he was stopped by the soldier girl. 10K found a side door breached by a horde of zombies and hurried to shoot them, allowing the survivor girl to flee. However, more zombies pursued, causing 10K to freeze in shock. Hearing the commotion, the soldier girl and Red rushed to the scene and found 10K surrounded by zombies. Red immediately attacked, and the soldier girl also began fighting the zombies. In the struggle, 10K's wrist was bitten. Enduring the pain, he broke free from the zombies' grip to aid the soldier girl. After Red freed herself from the zombies, she amputated 10K's bitten wrist, causing him to collapse in shock. Red then helped him up, and together they managed to escape. Unfortunately, the soldier girl was caught and bitten by the zombies. In a final act, she pulled the pin on a grenade attached to her, killing herself and the zombies around her, leaving 10K devastated. Red apologized profusely, regretting seeing 10K turn into a zombie. After some time, George proposed a trip to a neutral country, believing it to be full of clues about the missing Dante. As Roberta saw someone running in the distance and approached, she was suddenly held at gunpoint by a group. Turning around, George realized the man was a professor she knew and also the leader of the neutral country. She inquired about Dante's whereabouts but received no clues. The professor then led them to the neutral country, where they discovered many people had suddenly disappeared, including the radio operator's family who lived there. Amidst a heated argument in the hall, Roberta stepped forward to investigate, only to discover that it was about the safe zone. The news spread, leading to other human areas beginning to ostracize zombies further. On 10K's side, although his severed wrist was retrieved, the military officer confirmed that it had necrotized and could not be reattached, leaving 10K in despair. The executive then arrived, ordering the military officer to urgently develop an antidote. Many people are unwilling to continue living with the zombies, noting that since last week the factory has stopped delivering biscuits. They fear that once all the biscuits are consumed, the zombies will start to lose control. At this point, a dispute arises between the zombies and humans, eventually escalating into a full-blown fight. In the midst of the chaos, Roberta fires a warning shot into the air, successfully halting the argument and cautioning the humans present not to let fear govern them. Otherwise, humans will lose control faster than the zombies, and continual conflicts will only lead to more disasters. George believes that the explosion in the safe zone is part of a conspiracy by others and not an act by the zombies. She vows to uncover the truth and encourages everyone to lower their guard against the zombies. Later that night, while everyone is resting, Roberta suddenly hears a door closing. She quickly wakes up Doc, and they check the corridor to find someone sneaking around. As they follow the person outside, an alarm suddenly sounds, revealing that all the zombies have taken advantage of the night to escape from the neutral zone. George, who had hoped to help the zombies, is devastated. The next morning, Roberta and her group prepare to leave, determined to find and bring back the zombies to avoid attacks by bandits. At this moment, the fangirl arrives with information about the zombies, who are moving towards a secret location marked with special symbols. She hands Roberta a piece of paper with the symbol, prompting them to search the woods. After some time, they find traces of the zombies in the woods. Suddenly, some men arrive and hold everyone at gunpoint, informing them that the executive has ordered the execution of Dante. This infuriates George, but Roberta tells them that no one knows where the missing Dante is, and the men leave the scene. Meanwhile, the executive asked the military officer about the progress of the antidote, but she explains that it will take a substantial amount of time to test. The executive warns that the antidote must be completed immediately, or else they will run out of biscuits and will have to eliminate all the zombies to prevent loss of control. Roberta finds special markers on trees and also discovers Dante's gear. They then hear strange noises, and a large number of zombies burst out of the forest, forcing everyone to flee and hide from the zombie attack. The communicator reports to the fangirl, and she learns that the cameras have been confiscated by the executive, but she believes she can hack into the Safe Zone's database to find the perpetrator of the explosion. She heads to her room to use the computer. Roberta and her group were surrounded by zombies. The group quickly grabs their weapons and fights off the zombies. The professor is tackled by a zombie, and George rushes to help. As the professor runs, a zombie catches up and pins him down. George pushes the zombie off and kills it with a knife. Suddenly, an explosion is heard, and a distress call comes through the communicator. The fangirl informs them of a massive attack on the neutral country, prompting everyone to rush back for a rescue operation. The professor then realizes his arm has been bitten by a zombie. Upon reaching the neutral country, they find many residents killed, and George discovers a critically injured resident who informs them of a massive zombie invasion here. Meanwhile, Dante watches from a distance and quickly leaves the scene with many zombies, as more residents are affected by the explosions and turn into zombies. Explosions continue, and a distress signal from the fangirl is received. She goes to the children's room to look for her son, but finds it empty, and the corridor has been damaged by a bomb. Suddenly, she is attacked but manages to kill the zombie with a rod. Roberta discovered many injured inside the building. A man was pinned under a heavy object, and as Doc approached to help, the injured man warned of terrifying bomb zombies. Suddenly, a horde of zombies appeared, and everyone quickly moved to attack. Doc grabbed a hammer and promptly killed the zombies. George and Roberta collaborated to eliminate all the zombies. After inspecting the zombies' identification, they realized they came from a remote area, leading George to suspect that someone had deliberately unleashed the zombies to attack. The communicator discovered that the fangirl had already left her room. Upon reaching the children's room, her son was nowhere to be seen. Hearing zombie noises, she cautiously moved forward to investigate and was attacked by a zombie. With only one bullet in her pistol, which missed its target, she quickly fought back, pulling a knife from the zombie's body and successfully sending it to meet zombie Satan. She then continued to search for her family and met the fangirl in the corridor. Together, they set off to find her son. Meanwhile, 10K was practicing shooting outdoors, but having lost the use of his wrist, he failed to hit the target, leaving him quite disheartened. Doc found many severely injured humans. As they waited for a man to die and turn into a zombie, they began feeding him brain biscuits. The man revealed that many zombies had been rigged with bombs, warning Doc to be careful of bomb-carrying zombies to avoid being caught in an explosion. Just then, Doc heard a strange noise, discovered it was a bomb, and the zombies came rushing in, prompting him to go out and confront them. Roberta and her group saw many humans bitten, and they quickly intervened, eliminating the nearby zombies. However, many residents were already fatally wounded and became uncontrollable zombies upon revival. George, with no biscuits to offer, could only watch as the residents continued to suffer until she finally decided to put the zombies out of their misery. Afterward, they reached the library, the last place where human books were preserved, only to find the culture destroyed and the neutral country heavily damaged, which greatly saddened George. Roberta stepped forward to comfort her, successfully lifting her spirits. The communicator, finding a mark left by his son on the ground, realized that his son and the granny were hiding in a safe room. Meanwhile, Doc subdued a bomb-rigged zombie, discovered the bomb was about to explode, and quickly pushed the zombie into the corridor. As the zombie walked towards the communicator, they were too frightened to attack. Doc kept knocking on walls to attract the zombie, eventually pushing it into an obstacle that triggered a massive explosion, which Doc narrowly avoided. When the communicator opened the room, he joyfully embraced his son. While walking alone in the woods, 10K spotted the executive's men capturing zombies with tasers. He quickly followed them to uncover the executive's conspiracy. After a while, everyone came out of the building to find many severely injured residents who kept turning into zombies. With biscuit supplies already depleted, they had no choice but to kill the uncontrollable zombies. The remaining humans believed the attacks were orchestrated by Dante, then blamed the professor for not helping everyone, leading to many residents' deaths. The professor showed his wounded hand, explaining what had happened outside, but the residents refused to listen to his bullshit. Just then, the executive's men arrived, ready to transport humans to a safe area, bringing immense relief to the surviving residents. 10K followed those men to a mysterious building and noticed many transport vehicles, guarded by several patrols. Back in the neutral zone, the henchmen refused to let zombies board the vehicle, stating that only humans could live in the safe zone. They pushed away Murphy and shot at zombies disguised as humans, also forbidding them from bringing any books. Meanwhile, Roberta hoped that the communicator and his family would move to the safe zone for mutual support, knowing the situation inside. All the humans were then taken to live in the safe zone. While the guards were distracted, 10K sneaked into a truck to avoid detection. Suddenly, the henchmen opened the cargo area of the truck and loaded it with a large group of zombies before driving away from the building. 10K hung from the top to avoid the zombies. After a while, the truck approached the neutral zone and released the zombies outside. 10K quickly got down from the truck to avoid being noticed by the guards. Roberta and her group continued through the woods, following the marks to locate Dante's hiding place. The person making the marks was a woman wielding a large stick. After some time, they reached a city and were continuously attacked along the way, killing the zombies as they went. They encountered even more zombies and had to leave the scene. Spotting a lit building, they immediately moved towards its entrance and then entered the building to take refuge from the massive zombie chase, only to discover it was a bar full of zombie patrons. That's when Murphy appeared, shocking the group. It turned out that Murphy was the bar's owner and also welcomed Roberta's arrival, informing everyone that the bar was a refuge for zombies. Murphy let Doc know that the women here were quite charming, exciting him enough to start flirting with the sexy ones. Later, Murphy led everyone to the basement, revealing that zombies who had escaped the safe zone were living there. All the zombies that came were brought by a mysterious person whose identity Murphy did not know. As the zombies were close to losing control from hunger, everyone quickly left. After a while, Roberta and her group discussed in a room, suspecting the mysterious person might be connected to Dante, constantly transporting zombies to avoid harm from humans. Just then, a transport vehicle arrived, and Murphy rushed out to check and discovered the mysterious person was Addie. Everyone then entered the bar to talk about what had happened. During this time, one of Murphy's men came to inform that the basement situation was out of control. Murphy quickly took Doc to investigate, only to find that the zombies had escaped from the room, surprising them. The zombies then uncontrollably ran off. In the meantime, Roberta and Addie were happily chatting and drinking in the bar. Roberta asked about Dante, but Addie was reluctant to answer, fearing it could lead to his execution. Murphy began searching for the zombies, only to find that they had been hungry for a long time and uncontrollably chased the two men. They ran to the elevator door and pushed all the zombies inside, finally resolving the crisis and quickly went upstairs to get some biscuits. Roberta hoped that Dante could return to the safe zone. Otherwise, he would become a fugitive and be pursued by the executive. However, Addie disagreed, believing that hiding was the best way to ensure safety. She then left the bar. Murphy later checked the scene and found no biscuits. The stockpile had already been depleted. He then discovered that all the biscuits had been gambled away by a gambler. After leaving the bar, Roberta found Addie surrounded by zombies. She took out her weapon to help, and after a struggle, the three of them managed to eliminate all the zombies. In the process, they earned Addie's trust, and she decided to lead everyone to Dante's hiding spot. Murphy approached the gambler with a proposition. He wanted to trade his expensive ammunition for all of the man's cookies. However, the gambler wasn't interested, valuing the cookies as more precious bargaining chips. He then made a bizarre request, asking Doc to gamble with his clothes as stakes. Meanwhile, Roberta was taken to a secluded area by Addie, where they signaled using stones. Dante immediately emerged from the ground and George asked him about recent events. They learned that after Dante had escaped, he was attacked by the executive's men and had fled here to seek refuge from further attacks. At George's suggestion, they decided to join Roberta's group. Doc had lost all his clothes in the bet, but they didn't realize that the man had cheated to win. With no chips left, Murphy reluctantly offered the bar's ownership to gamble with the man. The gambler, who had never lost before, agreed to Murphy's terms. Murphy then used his sensing abilities to cheat by using a half-zombie to peek at the man's cards, eventually defeating him. Everyone was overjoyed, but the man refused to accept his loss. While everyone was celebrating, he ate all the cookies. When they realized what had happened, the cookies were already gone. The man then felt unwell, unable to handle the energy from the cookies. Murphy quickly hid behind Doc to avoid the spray of liquid as the man's body exploded, destroying many of the cookies. As Roberta and her group entered the bar, they discovered the shortage of cookies. Then, the executive's men burst in and started shooting, causing chaos. Dante sensed something was wrong and hid with George. As the bar's owner, Murphy stepped forward, but was taken hostage by the enemies who were looking for Dante. Murphy hurriedly explained that there were no zombies hiding here. However, the uncontrollable zombies from the basement escaped and came upstairs, including Dante's wife. The enemies took her hostage and demanded Dante show himself. Concerned for his wife's safety, Dante surrendered and was taken away from the bar as his wife was executed, infuriating everyone. With insufficient weapons to fight back, they had no choice but to let the enemies leave. Meanwhile, 10K, who had been tracking them, also arrived at the bar to join them and informed them about the executive who released the zombies internationally. Later, the group decided to split up. Doc and George headed to a safe zone to confirm the verdict of the trial, while Roberta and her group went to the cookie factory to investigate the halt in production. On the way, Doc urged George to be cautious, fearing danger ahead, but she was only worried about zombies. Just then, a zombie appeared in front of their car, causing it to stall and the airbag to deploy, injuring George's ankle. Suddenly, more zombies appeared, and Doc quickly got out of the car to attack, easily killing all the zombies with a hammer. However, more zombies appeared, and as Doc went to attack, he was overwhelmed and nearly bitten, saved only by George shooting the zombie. Roberta's group arrived at the factory producing brain cookies and broke in. They cautiously entered, finding it deserted, except for many human skulls. A man upstairs started shooting, and Murphy dodged the bullets while Roberta returned fire, taking cover. As 10K and Addie searched other rooms, they were attacked by another man. 10K set up his weapon and shot the man as he peeked, just grazing his cheek and causing him to scream in pain. Addie then beat him mercilessly with a large bat. Murphy and the man engaged in a fierce gunfight. Murphy rushed forward, firing his pistol until he ran out of bullets. The man then threatened to shoot Murphy, but Roberta had already flanked him and aimed her gun at him. As Addie brought the other man over, they began to talk and learned about the family-run factory. The mother had developed the recipe for brain cookies, but when zombies overran the place, only 2 brothers survived while the rest of the family turned into zombies. The cookie stocks were depleted, and the brothers locked all their zombified family members in the upstairs office. The older brother sent the younger one to retrieve the recipe from their mother's pocket. Murphy played music downstairs to attract the uncontrollable zombies to the window, allowing the younger brother to sneak into the office and successfully retrieve the recipe. However, he slipped, drawing the zombies' attention, and was caught and bitten, infecting him. As zombies invaded the factory, the older brother angrily attacked them. Suddenly, more zombies broke into the area. Everyone quickly got up to fight back. Addie easily knocked the zombies dead with her hefty bat. However, 10K, who had lost his hand, found himself unable to aim and shoot properly. That's when Addie stepped in to help by using her bat as a makeshift support for his rifle, allowing 10K to accurately target and kill the zombies. Just as they were handling that, even more zombies appeared. The two swapped their weapons and swiftly dealt with the incoming zombies. After some time, Roberta and her group managed to chop off all the zombies' heads, using the brains to feed the zombie-like humans, restoring the factory family's human consciousness. Roberta then sought help, hoping the mother could provide a cookie recipe. It was then they discovered that the earliest cookies were made with brains. Although this helped the zombie-like humans regain their sanity, they soon faced a shortage of brains. Eventually, they used flour shipped from the town, which had a similar effect. However, after the town was attacked, the flour shipments stopped. The mother used the remaining zombie brains to make a large batch of the original cookies. Meanwhile, Doc saw the henchmen's cars along the road. Upon closer inspection, he found the henchman shot dead, but saw no sign of Dante. Nearby, he noticed a blood-stained trash can and found Dante's sunglasses beside it, which greatly alarmed George. She opened the trash can to find Dante brutally dismembered and living uncontrollably inside. Overcome with sorrow, she shot him to grant him release. After a while, the mother began making brain cookies, the aroma of which made Murphy extremely hungry. Roberta then approached Murphy for a talk, expressing concerns that the factory family couldn't survive alone. Murphy decided to take them to live at the bar, where they could also continue making cookies. Meanwhile, Roberta took others to investigate why the town had stopped producing flour. Just as they were about to split up, Murphy confessed his feelings to Roberta, asking her to be safe so they could continue to keep each other company. Roberta reciprocated Murphy's hormone feelings. On another front, George buried Dante's body and prepared to embark on a mission of revenge, setting off to meet up with Roberta. After some time, Roberta and her group arrived at the town and noticed many crops nearly ready for harvest, which should have been harvested by someone. Addie mentioned that she and her new boyfriend had already relocated all the zombie-like humans to the bar. As the group entered the town, they found all the humans had been killed. Roberta suspected someone had deliberately stopped the production of flour. Just then, strange noises nearby prompted a search. 10K, ready to shoot at an approaching zombie, was stopped by Addie. She realized it was an uncontrollable zombie-like human. Believing that the zombie-like human could inform them of what had happened once their consciousness was restored, Roberta put away her weapons and stepped forward to communicate. However, the zombie-like human, long out of control, was about to launch an attack when Doc drove up, urging everyone to get in the car and escape. They narrowly escaped the encircling zombie-like humans. Meanwhile, a woman in a mask, also a henchwoman of the executive, directed the zombie-like humans to pursue and attempt to eliminate Roberta and her group. The group snuck into a nearby building to seek refuge, taking positions by the windows to scope out the scene. They saw that the zombie-like humans seemed to be hunting for prey. At that moment, a man appeared from behind and revealed that the zombie-like humans were after his brain. Roberta then spoke with the man, trying to learn about recent events in the town. Unfortunately, too much of his brain had been consumed, and he had lost most of his memory. All he could remember was that he had volunteered to be sacrificed to prevent the townspeople from starving to death. George then informed everyone that Dante had been murdered, and Roberta decided to help find the killer to avenge his death. Sometime later, 10K began to feel unwell and discovered that his amputated wrist was severely infected. The only available water was contaminated, and Addie checked each room to ensure they were safe. Upon opening a closet and preparing to strike, she found her boyfriend hiding inside. She then asked her boyfriend to strip to check him thoroughly, noticing his wounds. He revealed he had been attacked by a mysterious assailant. Meanwhile, Doc searched the room and only found strong liquor, which they used to disinfect 10K's wounds, causing him great pain. Addie then helped her boyfriend downstairs, where Doc quickly bandaged his wounds. The boyfriend informed everyone that all the flour mill workers had been shot, and the ingredients for the flour had been stolen, indicating deliberate sabotage. But he was unaware of the flour's composition. They then set a plan in motion, using the man's brain to lure the zombie-like humans, aiming to capture all of them and restore their rationality before they could harvest the ripe crops, ensuring the safety of the people in the safe zone. Addie and her boyfriend acted together and successfully captured the zombie-like humans. Elsewhere, Roberta and George also managed to capture some zombie-like humans, while the masked woman observed from a distance, preparing to ambush them. 10K, thinking the masked woman was another uncontrollable zombie, was soon surrounded by her minions and struggled to fight them off due to his missing hand. Just as he was about to be killed by the enemy, Doc used a stun baton found on the ground to knock the enemy unconscious, saving 10K. They initially thought these two were just the town's zombie-like humans. Eventually, Doc locked all the zombie-like humans in a cage, and the man offered his brain to feed them so they could regain their human consciousness. After all the zombie-like humans had eaten, only one piece of the man's brain remained. Feeling unwell but happy to have saved them, the man expressed his desire to be freed from his suffering and bid everyone farewell. Addie's boyfriend stepped forward to help, taking the last piece of the brain and allowing the man to pass away peacefully. The boyfriend then informed everyone that they must first restore the water source at the dam, otherwise the water-deficient town would struggle to sustain crop growth. The dam was guarded by Native Americans, who happened to be friends with George. The group immediately set off for the dam to investigate. As they left the town, Doc noticed something was wrong and found that 10K was feverish. They needed to treat him with medication quickly. Suddenly, they heard gunshots from the town and hurried back to check, leaving Doc to proceed with 10K. Returning to town, Addie found her boyfriend had been attacked again. The mutants confined in the cage had been released by the enemy. Roberta immediately went to recapture them. Her boyfriend eventually died from excessive blood loss and turned into a mutant. Then, Roberta came back to report that 2 mutants were missing, likely the culprits behind her boyfriend's attack. Addie, fearing another attack, decided to stay and accompany her boyfriend, while the main group headed to the dam to meet up with Doc. Doc discovered that 10K's wound had worsened again when they were suddenly attacked by arrows. He was struck down, and after a while, both he and 10K were knocked unconscious in a surprise attack. As Doc slowly regained consciousness, he realized that both he and 10K had been tied up alongside a bound zombie who was frantically screaming, attracting attention. However, their plight was halted by Roberta, who came and freed them from their bindings. Just as they were about to leave, they were bombarded with arrows. During their escape, Doc was unfortunately hit by an arrow again. Eventually, they were surrounded by Native Americans and had no choice but to surrender their weapons and were taken captive to the tribe. Just as they were about to be severely interrogated, a native woman recognized Doc, an old friend from past battles. Overjoyed by the reunion, she freed everyone and inquired about their visit. George explained the town's water shortage and its inability to produce flour. The woman then led them inside and briefed them on the situation. Another woman took 10K to treat his infected wrist and informed everyone that someone had deliberately lured zombies near the dam, where more frenzied zombies had been causing havoc and damaging the dam system. The tribe's chief was currently repairing it, but they might have to abandon the dam if it was attacked again. George decided to meet with the chief, hoping the Native Americans wouldn't give up, as without their help, the town wouldn't be able to restore its water supply. Upon reaching the dam system's gates, they informed the guards that they needed to speak with the chief. The chief came out to meet them, and George inquired about the decision to evacuate. The chief stated that protecting the younger members of the tribe was more important than the dam, and they would soon evacuate to a safer place. Just then, the dam malfunctioned again, prompting the chief to return for more repairs. Meanwhile, the woman helped 10K treat his infected wound and presented him with a reindeer antler, suggesting it could be used as a prosthetic hand. She then jokingly told 10K he had to strip naked to receive the antler. Just as 10K was about to comply, she admitted it was just a prank, leaving him dumbfounded. Elsewhere, another woman was tending to Doc's wounds. He expressed his desire to settle down after living in a zombie-infested world for so long. The woman shared his sentiment, and they agreed to live together in the tribe once the world stabilized. Just then, zombies invaded again, and during the attack, the accompanying girl was bitten. The tribe quickly shot the zombies, but the girl died and immediately turned into a mutant. Realizing the situation was dire, the woman ordered the tribe to pack up and evacuate. Back with 10K, while using the antler to aim, he suddenly spotted a mysterious figure heading towards the dam system. The woman hurried to inform everyone while 10K followed the figure. He discovered the mysterious person entering a secret passage and breaking into the dam building to sabotage the system. 10K was about to approach when he was spotted by the mysterious person. After some time, as the tribe's chief was about to repair the system, he was suddenly attacked by a mysterious figure. Despite his extensive combat experience, which allowed him to easily knock the attacker to the ground, a fierce fight ensued. Unexpectedly, the chief slipped up and was struck in a vital spot by the mysterious person, ultimately being pushed down the stairs to his death. Meanwhile, the woman rushed to inform Roberta that a mysterious person had broken into the dam. However, the guards at the entrance did not believe her. At this point, Doc suggested that Native Americans possess the ability to undertake spiritual journeys, allowing their spirits to leave their bodies and investigate the dam's interior, much to everyone's astonishment. Despite their disbelief in Doc's strange idea, they eventually consulted a shaman who confirmed that spiritual travel is indeed real. He then brewed an ancient potion, claiming that drinking it would allow entrance into the spirit world. Roberta and others quickly consumed the potion and immediately fell unconscious. Their spirits entered the dam, but they found themselves unable to touch the mysterious person. Inside, Doc found 10K, who was unconscious. As the furnace was about to explode, they realized they couldn't physically interact to stop it. Roberta tracked the mysterious figure who began to attack, shooting and killing a corridor guard. Though she wanted to intervene spiritually, she was powerless. Just as she was about to continue her pursuit, she was awakened by George using a stun gun. Roberta informed her that she had found a secret passage used by the intruder, and they hurriedly entered the building to investigate. Doc discovered that the furnace was at its limit, but his spirit couldn't manipulate the controls. As the furnace began to leak and the effects of the potion wore off, their spirits returned to their bodies. Concerned for 10K's safety, Doc quickly drank more of the potion, returned to the furnace, and managed to jump into 10K's body, taking control and successfully shutting down the machine. After the chief's death, he reanimated as a mutant and was alerted by a malfunctioning sound. He rushed to stop the mysterious person's sabotage. Meanwhile, Roberta and George entered the building and found the intruder damaging the control room, leading to a fierce gunfight. As the mysterious person fled, they pursued him. George, emerging from the main entrance, was ambushed by the mysterious person, who knocked her gun away and launched a series of attacks. Following a violent struggle, she managed to subdue the mysterious man. Just as she was about to demand answers, he pushed her heavy body back and prepared to shoot her. Fortunately, 10K arrived just in time and killed the mysterious man, resolving the crisis at the dam. After some time, the Native Americans joyously celebrated, and the Native woman expressed her gratitude to everyone for their willingness to help protect their lands. The mutant chief decided to stay and guard the dam to prevent future sabotage. Elsewhere, many mutated humans were taken to a scrapyard and forced by humans to dig up discarded batteries. One mutant, driven by hunger, ate a battery and discovered that its contents could restore a mutant's consciousness. Seizing the moment when the guards were distracted, he encouraged other mutants to consume the batteries as well. After some time, many mutants regained their strength and consciousness. However, those who remained unconscious were shot by the guards. The man retaliated, knocking down a guard. The recovered mutants then took action, successfully seizing weapons and taking the guards hostage. The man decided to gather all the mutants to establish a free nation. The mutants cheered, relieved to no longer be controlled by humans. However, when the man ventured into an abandoned tunnel to retrieve more batteries, terrifying screams echoed from within. The group, frightened, opened fire towards the tunnel entrance. Unfortunately, the man was killed, and his head was severed and thrown outside, causing the mutants to scatter in fear while the guards regained control of the scrapyard. After some time, Roberta and her group arrived near the scrapyard and noticed trucks carrying special materials being transported towards a safe zone. Sensing something was amiss, she decided to lead her group into the scrapyard to investigate. They also discovered that the mutants were being enslaved and forced to dig up discarded parts. As they split up to uncover the hidden truths of the scrapyard, 10K and Doc prepared to launch a surprise attack. However, something terrifying emerged from the tunnel, dragging away and killing a guard. Unaware of what had happened, they continued their investigation. Roberta and George found that the mutants were being mistreated and observed some secretly eating discarded materials. Roberta suspected that these contained special ingredients that could prevent the mutants from losing control. George then disguised herself as a mutant and began collecting parts in a barrel. Suddenly, the guards sensed something was amiss and approached George to check on her. At this moment, Roberta, hiding in a high spot, used miscellaneous items to distract the guards' attention. Ultimately, under the guards' barrage of gunfire, Roberta tragically fell into a dark tunnel. After some time, Roberta slowly regained consciousness from her stupor. Upon getting up to inspect her surroundings, she discovered numerous decapitated bodies and a table laden with an array of weapons, which left her utterly astonished. Meanwhile, Doc and 10K stealthily infiltrated a factory where machines continuously melted special components to create energy-filled metal blocks, which were then boxed and loaded onto trucks. The two decided to follow and investigate further. While George was examining the tunnel entrance, she was spotted by a guard who pointed a gun at her, demanding she come down to work. The guard then forced her to enter the tunnel with the mutants under the watchful eyes of other guards, leaving her no choice but to proceed with the work inside. Doc reached the control room of the scrapyard to find it eerily deserted and strewn with the bodies of guards. He surmised that a formidable creature must have broken in, leading to the humans' gruesome demise. As for Roberta, unable to find any exit nearby and hearing terrifying footsteps approaching, she realized she was weaponless. It turned out the tunnel was a dwelling place for powerful mutants who were equipped with substantial gear. They ate batteries to replenish their strength and used scrap metal to craft other weapons. Disguising herself among the corpses on the ground, Roberta witnessed guards being dragged in and killed by the mutants, which intensified her nerves. On the other hand, George was about to venture deeper into the tunnel when she was stopped by a mutant, warning her of the dangers inside. After conversing with the mutant, she learned that consuming batteries could preserve consciousness, similar to the effect of brain cookies, and that these were the components the guards were tasked with collecting. Motivated to move deeper, she aimed to locate Roberta. After a while, Doc monitored the control room's cameras, trying to locate both Roberta and George. Testing a button on the console, he accidentally activated a mechanical arm that flung a mutant into the air. Realizing something was wrong, the guard headed to the control room to investigate the disturbance. Quickly donning work uniforms and posing as guards, they learned that it was the executive who had ordered the continuous collection of batteries. Doc then claimed he was the designated officer, successfully deceiving the guard, and continued his search for Roberta. Back with Roberta, she searched for an exit while the mutants were away. Just then, she heard someone approaching. It was George coming to the rescue. Together, they crawled through the passage but were caught by a guard. Subsequently, Roberta and George were brought to an open area where they were lined up for execution. In the nick of time, Doc in the control room turned on the power and used a massive magnet to pull the guards' guns upwards. Just as a battle was about to ensue, another guard held them at gunpoint. However, zombies from the tunnel quickly appeared and killed the guard, leaving both women in shock. They quickly turned and fled the scene to meet up with the others in the control room. There, Doc immediately closed the main door and they began discussing the information they had gathered. Roberta speculated that the ingredient in the batteries was the same as in the brain cookies and suspected that the outpost executive had stopped cookie production to control the zombies. At that moment, Doc noticed guards loading batteries onto a truck. They prepared a plan to hijack the truck and take it to a bar to make brain cookies. Later, as Doc was sneakily driving away the truck, other guards followed and boarded the truck, leaving together. Roberta then stepped forward to intercept, claiming she was ordered to take over the truck. However, her identity was doubted by the guards. Doc quickly launched an attack, and after a struggle, successfully threw all the guards off the truck. Just as he was about to start the engine, the truck broke down. During the fight, George was knocked unconscious by a guard. Everyone quickly checked on her condition, only to find that tunnel mutants had come and chopped off the guard's arm. Another guard attacked, but failed to harm the mutants and fled in terror. As the group prepared to confront the mutants, they realized the mutants were running out of power. They surrounded and attacked the mutants continuously. Unfortunately, Roberta was captured and easily thrown to the ground. Using the last of their power, a mutant tried to kill Roberta with a chainsaw, but their equipment malfunctioned and they lost consciousness as their power drained. In a final act of control, the mutant placed itself into a compactor and self-destructed, becoming a block of electrically charged scrap metal. The other mutants ate the parts to regain energy and human consciousness, thanking the group for saving them from becoming human slaves. George then informed them that nearby was a city of hackers. With their strong hacking abilities, they could potentially infiltrate the security zone's data system and expose the executive's conspiracy. After some time, the group arrived in the city of hackers. Following the instructions of the fangirl, they successfully met up with the communicator and took Roberta to the hackers' base. They breached the main door and encountered the chief of the hacker city, who questioned their reasons for coming. Roberta expressed her hope that the hackers could help break into the safe zone, but the chief thought it would not be easy and initially refused her request. However, George proposed that once a new nation was established, all hacker members would receive better treatment than ordinary people. Eventually, both parties reached an agreement to begin hacking the safe zone's network. Meanwhile, Doc brought the factory mutants to the bar to avoid them being captured by the executive and turned into slaves collecting supplies. When someone knocked on the door, Murphy went to check and found the executive had come. He quickly had the mutants hide, then opened the door to inform them that the bar was closed and not open to the public. The executive, threatening and suspicious that all the mutants were hiding in the bar, forced his way in to check, but only found Doc and a few others. On the military officer's side, she was attempting to create a cure for the mutants. During this, Red came seeking help, hoping they could treat a friend who had turned into a mutant. However, the military officer explained that they needed cookies to prevent loss of control when hungry. The chief introduced everyone to the hacker members, among whom were some mutant hackers with powerful hacking skills. He then shared that they had a way to easily infiltrate the safe zone system. However, the executive's computer was specially encrypted, indicating that someone needed to stay in the safe zone to coordinate and crack the password. Subsequently, using a homemade cell phone, the communicator successfully connected with the fangirl in the safe zone. With the help of all the hackers, they safely got the fangirl to the control room and successfully cracked the password. The fangirl quickly went into search looking for the executive's computer. Suddenly, the executive received an alarm from the control room and had to rush back to the safe zone, abandoning the search for mutants hiding in the bar. He then contacted his men, demanding the immediate arrest of the intruders, and used satellite equipment to remotely hack the locks at the hacker base. Meanwhile, a group of zombies in the wild broke into the hacker base in search of humans to devour their smelly parts. The hackers, realizing something was wrong and noticing the large number of zombies breaking in, took out controllers and deployed drones to fight, easily shooting down many zombies, leaving Roberta and her group utterly astonished. The drones showcased superior technology by precisely shooting the zombies in the neck, successfully decapitating them, causing them to fall and die. However, they used up all their bullets and had to resort to ramming the drones into the zombies. During this, a hacker accidentally fell, leading to the drones crashing. Fortunately, all the zombies were already eliminated by this point. But just then, a zombie had already broken inside, prompting Roberta to quickly launch an attack. Finally, the chief took out a small drone, maneuvered it into the zombie's head, had everyone duck for cover, and activated its self-destruct to kill the zombie. Back at the bar, Doc discovered that a child of a mutant was missing. Everyone searched continuously, but couldn't find the child. Just then, they heard a knock at the door, only to find the executive outside, and the mutant's child had also been taken hostage. The executive used the child as leverage to enter the building, looking to draw out all the mutants. Eventually, under the child's guidance, he discovered where the mutants were hiding, had his men send over a vehicle, and prepared to take everyone away. The military officer had a mutant restrained in a chair, about to shoot it to provide relief from its uncontrollable state, when Red intervened. She suggested using Murphy's blood to try and reverse the mutant's loss of control. At Red's insistence, the military officer took a risk by injecting the mutant with a new antidote developed from Murphy's blood. The injection instantly restored the mutant to a human appearance, much to her astonishment. However, the woman had been seriously ill, and reverting to her human state only weakened her immunity, leading to a painful death shortly afterwards. After some time, the fangirl accessed the executive's computer and connected with Roberta's group to start the password cracking process. With the help of all the hackers, they successfully cracked the password again and began investigating all the files to uncover the executive's hidden schemes. Just then, a guard passed by and decided to check the office. Fortunately, the fangirl had already fled, narrowly escaping the guard's search, but they hadn't managed to fully decrypt the executive's secret files yet. Meanwhile, Murphy and the mutants were locked up together. Murphy continuously pleaded for the mutants to be allowed cookies to prevent them from losing control. However, the executive, only willing to assist humans, turned away and left the scene. Subsequently, all the mutants were loaded onto a bus, prepared to be transported to another location. Also on the bus, Murphy realized that the mutants were about to lose control and started to use his mental influence to temporarily stabilize them, surprising the henchmen who were unaware of Murphy's ability to control mutants. In the safe zone, they continued to shelter a large number of humans. One man, upon scanning, was detected as a traitor and was immediately shot dead by a guard. When it was the communicator's turn, the fangirl quickly altered the security system of the safe zone, allowing the communicator to smoothly pass through the gate. George also passed the inspection, but the fangirl's modifications suddenly failed, making it impossible to detect Roberta's identity. Fortunately, she managed to modify the data in time, and Roberta was not discovered by the guards. As the communicator entered the control room, he found no sign of the fangirl. Suddenly, a drink machine activated, revealing a hidden chamber inside where the fangirl was hiding and controlling the security system. Roberta's identity was unfortunately exposed by a street guard. While trying to escape, she quickly knocked down the approaching guard, but was eventually caught at gunpoint. With no weapons at their disposal, both she and her companion were arrested. After some time, the masked woman arrived at the bus location, only to find all the guards dead and the mutants missing. As soon as she entered the bus, the hiding Murphy surrendered. The masked woman then began to interrogate him about the events that had occurred. In reality, all the guards had been killed by Addie, who then rescued all the mutants. However, Murphy did not reveal that the zombies had lost control and attacked the guards, leading the guards to panic and end their own lives. The masked woman did not believe Murphy's lies and prepared to use a knife for further interrogation. Just then, she received a call from the executive, learned of Roberta's arrest, and decided to quickly return to the safe zone and leave Murphy at the scene. Roberta and George were tied to chairs. Later, the masked woman returned to the safe zone to discuss governance plans with the executive. They believed it was crucial to locate all the mutants to prevent any impact on the development of the safe zone. The masked woman expressed her intent to harshly interrogate George to extract all the information. She then requested to play a public hormone yoga game with the executive in the corridor. Elsewhere, Addie arrived at a secluded area with the mutants, bringing a large number of batteries for them to consume to prevent them from losing control. Back with Roberta, the executive came to interrogate her. George was furious, already aware of the executive's conspiracy. Despite this, the executive believed that the people would never discover the truth and decided to sentence both women to death, taking Roberta to another room. Later, the masked woman came to interrogate George. Meanwhile, the military officer pulled out a severed hand infected with the zombie virus and successfully injected it with a developed vaccine. The hand struggled violently before reverting to its human state, continuing to sustain life, which greatly pleased them both as they believed they could finally solve the zombie disaster. The executive brought Roberta to a room for interrogation, hoping she would reveal the whereabouts of the mutants to prevent further harm. However, Roberta was unwilling to confess, which greatly angered the executive. On George's side, she too refused to disclose the location of the mutants and was subjected to brutal torture, continuously attacked with an electric shock device. Then the masked woman confessed that she was the one who had killed Dante, detailing the process of his murder, which deeply affected George emotionally. After some time, Addie had the mutants prepare weapons and decided to wage war on the safe zone as the only way to end the rule of the executive. Meanwhile, Murphy came to join them and they all participated in the attack plan. Roberta expressed her willingness to reveal the location of the mutants, but in exchange, she demanded that the executive confess his misdeeds, accept the mutants into the safe zone, and grant them equal rights. The executive disagreed with all conditions and left the room abruptly. Elsewhere, the military officer began packing all her belongings, believing it urgent to leave the safe zone to avoid further control by the executive. She asked Red to find a car in preparation for their escape plan. However, while packing up the vaccine, the executive suddenly arrived for inspection and discovered her actions with the vaccine. The henchman locked Roberta in a confinement room. The fangirl, while monitoring the surveillance cameras, also spotted Roberta's image. She immediately hacked the security system and successfully unlocked the confinement room door. She then saw footage of George being tortured and decided to find Roberta to coordinate a rescue operation. George was covered in wounds from the abuse by the masked woman, but still refused to cooperate. Losing patience, the masked woman ordered her men to bring in the zombie, which terrified George immensely. The military officer spoke with the executive, explaining that she was just organizing the lab, not intending to take the vaccine away. It was then she realized she had been under surveillance by a drone controlled by the executive. Subsequently, the officer was bound to an operating chair and forcibly injected with the zombie virus. The executive stated that she could avoid turning into a zombie by revealing the location of the antidote. However, the officer decided to sacrifice her life rather than give up the antidote. At this moment, a minion reported that Roberta had escaped her room, forcing the executive to leave the rapidly mutating officer behind and go after Roberta. George, about to be bitten by the zombie, confessed everything out of fear and revealed the hiding place of the mutants. Later, when Red returned to the lab, she found the military officer had been injected with the virus and was about to lose control and mutate. Using her last remaining consciousness, the military officer directed Red to the antidote. Just as she was about to administer the injection, the officer lost control and attacked. In the struggle, lab equipment was accidentally broken. Ultimately, Red was knocked to the ground, where she immediately injected the officer with the antidote, causing her to revert to human form, but unfortunately struck fatally by glass. The executive ordered more henchmen to pursue Roberta. Meanwhile, the masked woman informed him that she had extracted the location of the mutants' hideout through torture. The executive decided to send all his men to attempt to eradicate the species of mutants. George was trapped in a room and used as bait for the zombie, yet she continuously resisted to avoid being bitten. Led by a communicator, Roberta found the room and saw George collapsed on the floor. She quickly checked on her, and fortunately George had only passed out temporarily. She soon regained consciousness. The zombie locked in with her was also taken out, much to the communicator's surprise. George revealed that she had successfully deceived the masked woman with false information as per their plan. Upon reaching the lab, Roberta discovered the military officer had suffered severe injuries, but learned that the antidote was successful and could treat all types of zombies. The dying officer expressed her wish for Roberta to preserve her brain, which held the formula for the vaccine, to prevent it from falling into the hands of the executive. Addie awaited the time to launch their assault, and then led her mutant troops towards the safe zone to fight for their survival rights. When the executive arrived at the detention room, he found that George had escaped. Assuming that the military officer would be rescued, he and his men headed to the lab. Roberta and her group didn't want to dissect the military officer's skull, but she insisted that she was the first person to die from the antidote injection. To prevent her brain from deteriorating, which would make extracting the memory of the antidote impossible, everyone reluctantly agreed to her request. As they were about to extract her brain, an alarm suddenly sounded. Everyone sprang into action, but the executive arrived at the lab just to find the military officer's head had been severed, which enraged him. He ordered the masked woman and all his men to eliminate all the mutants and kill Roberta and her group. After some time, Roberta continued to evade the guard's pursuit and asked Red to take the brain to Murphy for him to extract the formula. Meanwhile, the executive ordered his men to take all the vaccines from the lab and then sent a large force to the location where the masked woman gathered intelligence, aiming to exterminate all the zombies. After his men left the scene, the masked woman began to speak obscenely in front of the corpse, coercing the executive to engage in a smelly hormone yoga session. Roberta was preparing to head to the communicator's hiding spot when the secret room was suddenly surrounded by soldiers. Roberta hid nearby to observe the situation. Just then, the executive opened the secret door, only to find that the fangirl had already left the hidden room. The communicator arrived to regroup, explaining that he had anticipated the executive's actions, which allowed them to successfully evade capture and hide the fangirl and her family in a safe place. Murphy and Addie were leading a large group of mutants towards the safe zone when they suddenly encountered more zombies ahead. Addie stepped forward to confront them and easily knocked them down, breaking their skulls for the zombie people to feast on. Roberta discovered that the executive was conducting a new voting event, but the safe zone was under strict control and not many were willing to participate in the vote, indicating that the humans could not achieve freedom or escape the executive's control. During this, Roberta failed to notice that one of the men who came to vote was the farmer she had met on the farm, participating in the vote as a human. Doc stayed at the false location to execute their plan. Soon, the henchmen arrived at the scene, believing it was a gathering place for mutant people. Then the executive received a message that hundreds of voices were heard from the camp and ordered his men to open fire to eliminate all the mutant people. As the troops approached, the camp suddenly erupted with heavy gunfire. The henchmen launched an attack, continuously firing at the camp, only to find that there were no mutant people there. They then entered the tents to investigate and discovered it was Doc constantly making noise, leading to his furious capture and threats to reveal the locations of his allies. Meanwhile, the executive learned that the camp was just a decoy. Just as he was about to start the interrogation, 10K suddenly shot one of the men nearby and then took down several others. The henchmen turned into the mutants and attacked each other, allowing Doc to escape from the scene, with all the henchmen subsequently being killed. The executive asked about the situation, but heard only the screams of the victims. Then he received a notification from the side door guard about a special situation. Arriving at the side door, he found Addie bringing the mutants to participate in the vote, but most of his henchmen had already gone to the camp. Just as he was about to send other soldiers, Roberta suddenly appeared from behind, revealing that the soldiers in the safe zone had also been subdued. At this moment, the masked woman started shooting to create chaos, taking the opportunity to urge the executive to flee for his shitty life. Murphy opened the door to let everyone come in to vote, which could successfully change the system of the safe zone. Roberta and others quickly followed to try to arrest the executive. Then, they split up to engage in a fierce gunfight with the masked woman. Later, on the road, Roberta encountered the farmer from the farm and was utterly surprised. At this moment, Murphy also came to meet, revealing that the farmer was the person who had kidnapped him before. To solve the problems of the safe zone, Roberta had to continue chasing forward while also meeting up with George to find the last hiding place of the executive. Upon entering, the executive revealed that this place was the power energy center and confessed the true nature of the safe zone. It turned out that the ingredients for the cookies were the source of power, hence the previous explosion was planned to constantly persecute all the mutants and stop the production of brain cookies, allowing humans to have enough energy to sustain life. Although the antidote had been developed, the executive was not willing to risk trying it. All the conversations were actually recorded by Roberta's drone and live-streamed everywhere in the safe zone, letting the people know the truth. Then, the executive continued to insult the mutants, also angering the nearby masked woman, who then destroyed the energy control panel, intending to use an explosion to kill all humans. The executive urgently went with Roberta to repair the device, otherwise the energy would destroy the safe zone. Meanwhile, the masked woman launched an attack, engaging in a fierce fight with George. While repairing the system, the executive suffered steam burns. Despite his injuries, he continued working to ensure the safety of humanity. During a fight, George accidentally knocked off the masked woman's mask, revealing her true face, which had been severely scarred. In the ensuing struggle, the masked woman fell into the energy tank and died. After finally stabilizing the system, Roberta was ambushed by the executive, who snatched a handgun, held her hostage, and accused her of sabotaging the plan. He fired several shots, but to his shock, Roberta did not fall. The executive was then arrested by George. Discovering that Roberta's body did not bleed, he fainted from fear. After some time, Roberta regained consciousness. The farmer stayed by her side, informing her that the executive had been detained. He then confessed about the incident at the farm. It turned out that Roberta had already died from severe injuries during the emergency treatment. However, because she had Murphy's blood in her, she did not turn into a mutant. Realizing she had been dead for a while, Roberta was deeply saddened. Ultimately, during their conversation, they forgave each other for past mistakes and agreed to return to the farm to live happily after everything was settled. Then, everyone gathered in the hall to await the results of the Safe Zone's vote. Meanwhile, Doc decided to head to the dam, hoping to marry the native woman and start a family. Addie chose to continue wandering to eradicate the remaining zombies. Following the military officer's last wishes, her brain was handed over to Murphy for processing. Finally, George gave a speech announcing the establishment of a democratic state where everyone would be treated equally, which was met with cheers of joy. Murphy, stepping away from the crowd, began to enjoy the military officer's brain, not only savoring the taste but also obtaining the formula for making the antidote. All zombies were prepared to turn back into humans, bringing the entire story to a close. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.